take the bus to Dubrovnik, or you can also take the fast ferry, because here you have boats or fast ferries going to Vartown, Split, to Bol, and to Jelsa on Island Hvar. Hey everyone, today I'm going to give you a small tour of the ferry port in Split. You will basically see it's quite a big port. There's actually 27 berths for fast ferries, or catamaran as we like to call them, and car ferries. From the Split port you have 6 different ferry companies running. You can reach 8 different islands and a total of 20 destinations. So it is really busy, especially in the main season. So I will give you a few tips how you can save some time and how you can easier navigate around. So this is basically how the port looks. If you look to the right over here, you see this is the main promenade, what we call the Riva in Split, and basically the port starts here down in front of me and go all the way out to the end. You can't even see the last birds out at the end, but we will get there later. Okay, let's get started with the tour. Basically, the only way for cars to get to the ferry port, and you will see that there's quite a lot of cars. Now we're actually relatively early in the morning, but if you come here in the middle of the day, the line would go maybe half a mile back, so count that in when you basically, if you need to catch a ferry, that you will have to deal with traffic. And basically there's only the right lane is the one which takes you to the ferry port, but of course people line up in the left lane, and then when they get down to the end of it, they try to squeeze in. So it can be a bit annoying if you end up in the right lane and see all these cars passing you on the way. But well, hey, if you're going on holiday, you probably will manage that also. And from here, we basically have maybe 500 meters, 600 meters, then we are at the port area, so we are getting close. As you can see here on the sign, right lane goes straight to the ferry terminal, the bus station, and also the train station. So as you will see later, all of it is basically located next to each other, so Split really has an easy way of jumping between different modes of transportation. Now we're almost there. Now we're coming up here to the main bus hub for city buses in Split. You can actually see here. So if you should come into the city with a city bus, this will probably be the place where you'll be dropped off. And from here, it's very, very easy to get to the ferry port, as I'll show you. Just walk down here. And then basically you will cross the street again over here. As you can see, it's already, although it's around 8 o'clock in the morning, there's already lots of people here. So well, we might as well wait. It seems we are the only one waiting for the green light. Now it's there. Let's go. So when you get over here, you basically just follow the road down here. In front of us, you basically have the main seaside promenade in Split, the Riva. And as you can see on the signs over here, it's pretty obvious where we have to go. So we managed to get to the other side, and we're going to start having a look at the berths down in this end of the port. As you see here, this is berth number 7. And a little bit further down we have 6C, 6B and 6A is going to come. And basically these are the signs you need to navigate by once you figure out where your ferry is departing. Then basically follow those signs to get to the right spot. So in this end of the port, it's only fast ferries or passenger only ferries. Usually you have the ferries for, as you can see here, Milna on Island Braz, Rogatz on Island Scholta, and you also have ferries going to Bol, usually also the ferry to Vis. We'll park down here. And I'm just gonna circle around because as you see, there's a lot of people. Here you see this ferry is going to Split, to Bol and to Jelsa on Island Var. And people are boarding the ferry now. So it can get really crowded. This is actually, I would say, nothing. When we really have busy season during the day, you have the boats everywhere. It would be really crowded. So you need to pay attention. So you see also here in front of me, people lined up. I'm not sure which ferry they're taking, but it could be the one going to Trogir. Yeah, anyway, these are berth 6A. You have 5 over there and 4 over there. That's basically the main berth for the passenger ferries on this pier. One interesting fact is that you have down here, you have a ferry company called Bura Line. They run a ferry which goes from Split to Slatina and Albania on Island Chiovo and then to Trogir. So if you are planning to visit Trogir on a day trip or just you want to go and see the city, you can of course go by bus, but I would highly recommend that you at least consider taking the ferry in one direction. It's just really nice sailing trip. You see our forest park Marian from the seaside. You see Chiovo from the seaside. It's a really nice trip. So definitely a recommendation from my side. Take the boat in one direction and go back with and go the other direction with the bus. If I have guests, I would usually always take the ferry out there because it takes a bit longer than taking the bus, and basically usually when people want to go home in the afternoon, it's easier taking the bus because it's just faster. Anyway, now we're going to go back, see if we can navigate our way out of this with all the people. One important thing to mention, which you should know, is if you buy the tickets upfront online, you will basically never get the berth number of the boat on the ticket, because although most of the ferries always use the same berth, because the port is busy, it happens on days that they have to rearrange stuff, and it would simply be too complicated if they would tell you, be at berth number 7 and the boat end up at berth number 12. Then basically you probably will have a lot of people who doesn't notice that there's this change. So it's easier for the ferry companies to do it without the berth number, because simply they wouldn't lose that many passengers. Anyway, I will show you a little bit later how you easily find where your ferry is departing. So if you come with the car, you can see these signs when you get down to the port. They will clearly state to you which lane you have to take with the car, depending on which destination you have. So just follow those signs. You have one here on the right when you come down by the car, and you have another display up here, which would additionally guide you. It can also be here. Maybe there's changes, so I would even say that the display in the middle here is maybe better to follow than the fixed sign. So now we're gonna walk down to the next pier. And by the way, this is our what we called the West Coast Viva, which was finished up maybe 3 years ago. I think it was around COVID. Before it was not that nice, but they really did it in a good way. Now you have the palms, you have sitting areas all the way, which makes it way easier with all the passengers we have, that you actually have the option to sit down for a few minutes, take a rest while navigating around the port. And on the left side over there, you see you have all kinds of shops, food places. So if you need to buy drinks, some snack to bring on the boat, you can stock up over here before you board the boat. So now we're coming down to the middle pier, which is called Sveti Petra. And this is definitely one of the most busy piers, because here you have boats or fast ferries going to Vartown, and Vartown is, at least for foot passengers, definitely the most popular destination. So when you're here at this pier, this is really important. Probably it's not that easy to see on the camera, but this is basically a display showing you the departures, the upcoming departures, and will show you on which berth the ferry will depart. So just always navigate yourself to this spot, check it out, then you know exactly when and where your ferry is going to depart, and you won't miss it. So let's go down here. It's a bit down. So on the right side out of this pier, you basically have a lot of, I just have a card pass. You have a lot, you see here, you have ticket office. As you see, there's Jadrolinja here, there's Krilo, there's Katarina line, there's TP line. So basically, what's the deal with this? So if you're going to a destination like Vara, you basically have 3 different companies going. So you need, to get the right departure, check all 3 of them, or go to websites which have all the ferry companies in one place, so that you can figure out which one is the most suitable for you. If you buy the ticket online, you can basically, you need to be at the port, I would say at least 20 minutes before, so that you're sure you can navigate over here, maybe half an hour in the main season. And then you can go straight directly to the boat. If you need to buy the tickets, as you can see here, this is early morning, and there's already a line. If you come later in the day, the line is going to be much bigger, so if you need to buy the ticket here, make sure that you count this time. Anyway, another good thing there is to know about taking the fast ferries is that the fast ferries doesn't have any seat reservation system. So what does that mean? That basically means you get a spot as you board the boat. So if you are going on one of the bit longer trips, for instance, you have a catamaran from Split to Dubrovnik, which is 4 or 5 hours, you might want to sit at the window, which means you need to be early at the boat. So forget this about, coming half an hour before. Maybe you should be here 45 minutes before at the boat. Then you can get in, you can pick the seat, so you can have a nice view out. Or on some of the other catamarans, even on the shorter trips, you have an outside seat in the area, but it's very limited because they are really sailing fast, so they only have usually at the top back part of the boat a limited amount of seats. And if you want to sit outside, enjoy the view, the sun, the weather, you need to be there early, because with a packed boat, these seats are probably also other people find these seats very interesting. So be early in that case. Anyway, this is, you see it continues. All the birds out here. I mean, VAR, the Dubrovnik, this one is usually berth 10, 11. But again, as I advised, you really check on the display, digital display, so you're 100% sure you get the right catamaran, and even ask when you get to the boat, because some of the companies have multiple catamarans lined up next to each other, so just to be 100% sure that you're on the right one. So now we're going to go back. Maybe also another tip: when I did some of the longer fast ferry or general ferry trips, I always bring, water, some sandwich or something. You can buy some of the boat. In some cases it's very expensive, or simply the offer what they have is very limited. So it really pays out to, bring a bit of food, some cold drinks, so that you have for the trip. So now we're going to continue down to the area where you mainly find the car ferries. So one really, really interesting part about Split is that you have the ferry port, and just on the opposite side of the street, you have the train station, which you see basically here. And next to it over here, you have the bus station. So really, if you are coming by bus or by ferry into Split, you really don't have to worry about transportation to the ferry port, because it's literally just crossing the street and then you're there. So great for travelers. As you can see here, we also have some birds here. Here's number 15. I must confess, I've never seen a ferry lined up here and people boarding here. Usually here you would find some mini cruisers, especially on Fridays. The port will be packed by them. It's kind of similar to the one you see out there below the big ferry, or the ones over here. I mean, I don't know how many in the port. I would guess 30, 40, and usually they are 4 or 5 in a row going out here. So really packed, really packed. Good. Now we are coming down to the main terminal. And here you have car ferries, as you can see on the sign here. The car ferry to Statigrad on Island Var is usually sailing from down here. And also from time to time you have the ferry to Vis, although it says something else on this sign, but you see down there, there's a sign showing it to Vis. So it depends on the day and everything. They might move them around, but Statigrad on Var is usually always here. So before the ferry departs, you will see a lot of cars lined up here. You will see a few people guiding you how to turn around your car and get in the line, because simply the port is not that big. There's simply not space enough, so sometimes it's a bit tricky to get everybody in line, but the guys are skillful and know what they're doing, so just ask them and get the guide or follow their guidance. But now we will continue to the terminal. So here at the terminal, there's a few things. So first of all, I don't know if you see the sign up here, Split Arkona. So the only international ferry from Split is basically driving from down here. You have here the customs and the police. If somebody's on the boat which needs to have passport checks and these kind of stuff, so that's why this one is more or less always strict. That this one is around the terminal. The ferry from Italy arrives on one of the berths here around the terminal. So, another thing which is good to know. It's good to know about the terminal. So when you get down to this part with the car, you see again, here you have a sign which would guide you which direction to go, so that you basically end up in the right place waiting for your ferry. Another thing I would actually mention, which I forgot a little bit before, with the buses. So one popular destination people go and visit after Split or even before Split is the Dubrovnik. And Dubrovnik is very interesting in terms of transportation, because you can which one is better? It's hard to say. I mean, the bus has great views when you're going down from Split. Sit at the right side of the bus, you will have some fantastic views on the way. But of course, being on sea, going between the islands is maybe a bit better in terms of the view. So I would probably recommend the ferry, although it's a bit more expensive, but simply it's worth it, I would say. But now we're going to cross the ferry terminal. So at the terminal here you can see you have coffee bars and all stuff, but very importantly you have another display which shows the next departures. So if you are coming from this side of town, you can basically check here, where is my ferry departure. So very helpful. So inside the terminal building, you basically have a few shops, and you have some ATM machines and this stuff. Nothing particular in there. The only main thing is you have a large Jardolinia ticket office. So if you haven't bought your tickets up front, you can basically park the car on the pier and you can run over and get your tickets. Meanwhile, I think all the websites with the tickets are so easy to use, so I would definitely say buy it up front if you know when you're going to travel. And maybe also something interesting, years back it used to be like this. If you bought a ticket for, let's say you were going to Island V's and there would be 3-4 car ferry departures, you would basically buy a ticket and that would be valid for the specific day. And then you would basically just go down when there was a ferry departure and said, I want to take them, whatever, 7 o'clock in the morning, and you come down to the port and you line up, and if there's space you basically end up on the ferry. If you're unlucky and come last, you might have to wait for the next departure. Nowadays it's changed for lots of the destinations where there's not too many departures. You basically have to book a ticket for a specific departure, and they will check. I've went on a few car ferries now, like to Starligrat, and they actually do check, do you have a ticket for the 11 o'clock departures? If you don't have, they're not going to allow you into the waiting area. So these are kind of things which is important to know. You need to have a ticket for some of them for the specific departure. You cannot just go and say, I changed my mind, I have for the 11 o'clock in the evening, but I rather want to go in the afternoon. Then you need to basically go and change your ticket. This is important information, I think. If you're going to, I think Supatar, which is basically the most busy ferry route at all, where you have a car ferry. I think on that one there's so many departures, so I think on that one it doesn't apply. Anyway, let's go further. You see all the lines here, you see the signs, and again, as mentioned earlier, this is how it is on most days, is according to the signs, but there might be days where they for some reason have to change it. Now you can see here, they're boarding the ferry. The guy is scanning the tickets, and then basically it's on and getting spot. Another tip I can give you if you're going with a car ferry. As you see, there can be quite long lines. This is basically nothing, it can be way worse. So when if you end up back in the line with a car, you'll be the last one on the boat, which means if you want to get a good seat up in the passenger on the passenger deck where you can sit inside with air condition, probably all of it is taken. So there's one way to go about that. If you're more people in the car, you would not book one ticket with 4 passengers, for instance. If you're 4 people traveling with a car, you would book one ticket for the car and the driver, and then you will book another ticket, which is 3 passengers, because then 3 of you can basically walk onto the ferry, which means you get on first, so you can go up and you can secure yourself a seat at the passenger deck. And that makes it maybe a bit more comfortable traveling. When you sit in a good place, you sit together and these kind of things. So think about this: buy 2 tickets, so that some of you can board as foot passengers, and only the guy or the person driving the car actually has a ticket for him in the car, or her in the car. Good. Time for waiting. I mean, it's always easy to wait on this side because most of the people who's parked here is actually going on holiday. So they have something to look forward to. It's maybe more tricky when you're going in the other direction. Holiday's over, don't feel like going back. Maybe over here you have the car ferry too. I think this one is for Årgårds on Island Skjolta. That one is not ready for boarding. Now you see a lot of rickshaws, or what do you call these ones, lined up here. Well, there's a reason for that. When we're getting out here to the end of the port, you see the small, big blue boat up there. Well, this is the place where cruise ships line up. So this is completely the outer pier, which was built maybe 6-8 years back. Before that, the cruise ships, when they came to Split, they would actually anchor up, and all the passengers would come in by boat. But now they are out here on the new pier, and basically all the passengers coming in are getting picked up by buses. Of course, some walk to town, but somebody likes to take one of these rickshaws around town, just to get a look at the town without having to walk too much in the heat. So this is now we're going out to the last pier. You can see right now it's closed off. But it might actually be some of the car ferries would be out here on specific days. Specifically, I was on Korčula. I took the car ferry to Vela Luka, and I actually had to board here, so it was a bit tricky going down here, turn the car when there was already a lot of cars, and then you had to go up here in the middle, just behind this celebrity. That's where you would enter the ferry, so a bit tricky but manageable. Good, let's go back. In addition to the rickshaws, you also have this small truck here, which would take people around the city. So you really have several options how to get to see Split if you come in by a cruise boat here. Anyway, this was more or less me explaining about the ferry port in Split. I hope you got some useful information. If you have any questions, feel free to add some comments here and I will try to answer them. If I ended up saying something which you think is not correct, please correct me. You know, nobody's perfect. I really try to give you the best possible information gained by personal experience traveling from Split many times. Thank you. Till next time.